It's coming.
All these voices. All these voices. All these things you can't explain. All these painful memories. They keep haunting you. It's daunting me. It's just the ghosts of you and me. It's just the smoke and gasoline. It's just the ghosts of you and me. Of you and me. All these whispers. All these
My name is James Hershey.
voices in the rain.
Right back.
All these shadows in my mind. With my reflection I can't find. It's just the ghosts of you and me. It's just the smoking gasoline. It's just the
That ought to
ghosts
do
of
it.
you and me. Of you and me. Don't let them take you away. Don't let them bring you down inside. It's just the mirrors in your mind. Don't let them bring you down.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Staring into the Abyss. I am your host, horror author James Hershey Jr., and with me, as always, my co-host, Old Boy James Ash. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing pretty good. How's everybody today?
Tonight's episode is going to be a fun and interesting one for me because, much like the episode we did on the Kardashian witch legend, where we took this legend that was blowing up and everybody was talking about, and we kind of broke it down and really tried to see if it was true or not, we're going to kind of do the same thing tonight with a different one, but it's going to be a little bit different. This one is a video that has been on YouTube, and it's really taken off, and it's gone viral, and a lot of people are talking about this thing. I'm not going to play the audio from the video or anything like that because I don't want to get, any copyright strikes or any trouble of any kind like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to explain the video to you, tell you what it's about, and we're going to go through a few things from it. In the video, you have a young man who claims that he was part of a secret government program in the 90s that was a program on time travel. Supposedly, according to this video, time travel has already been discovered, and the government is hiding it, that they are actually doing it since the 90s. Also in this video, he states that time travel will become available to everybody, available commercially in the year 2028. And he goes on to talk about a lot of different things in this video of what the future is going to be like. Because he claims that he went to the year 6000. And he also claims that he had a friend with him that went in the program, and they both went together to the year 6000. They hung out there for a while and experienced the future and all the things it had to offer. And when it was time to go back, they ran into a little bit of a problem. The gentleman claims that his friend had uploaded his brain to a VR server, a virtual reality server, not knowing that it was a permanent thing, thinking that it was just something he could do to experience that and then get back out of it. Well, supposedly, according to this gentleman, his friend is now trapped inside this VR program because he had uploaded his brain and he can't come back. So he basically lives inside of that computer program now. So he's still stuck in the year 6000, and the guy that made this video came back. Also in this video, he talks about a lot of different cool things of what the future is going to be like. And I'm going to go over some of those here in a few minutes. And then he ends the video crying about his friend and all this, and then he gets up and shakes hands with the film crew that's doing the interview with him and all that kind of stuff. But they're kind of off camera and you don't actually see them, and there's like no shadows of anybody standing there. So most likely he's just shaking the air, pretending that he's shaking the hands of people, because it really doesn't look like he is. I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to throw it to Old Boy real quick, and I'm going to get his view on the video, what he thinks of it, whether he believes it's real or not. And then we'll come back to me. I'll give you my info, and I will kind of expound on a lot of different things that they talk about in the video, because I think that's where this show is going to go. I think that's what's going to be very, very interesting and very fun to do, is talk about a few of the things that he says exist in the future. Because some of those things are actually being worked on today by scientists and by people trying to do exactly what he says happens in the future. So we'll get into that a little bit later. That'll be interesting. And we'll even talk about whether some of these things are even physically possible or not. So with that, I'm going to throw it to Old Boy real quick so that I can get all his thoughts on the video and what he believes, and then we'll come back to me here in a little bit. So Old Boy, go ahead and take it away, brother.
And thank you. What I think about this video, I saw it, and then at first you see like you can't even see his face for one, and you can't really tell if he's talking to somebody, or like James was saying, it kind of seems like he fakes everything, like the shaking in the air, because there is a group who, like, I guess, faked this interview or something. You know, some of the stuff he talks about could be true one day, because they've already tried to mess around with time travel, you know, and there's rumors that people have. You know, I think this guy is not legit. I think, like, I've even read comments in the video that this is fake, and it seems like it is. That he also, like, distorts his voice so no one can hear him, and that's another issue I have. Then he has like this picture, and it's all fuzzy and blurry it's blurry of the future. And anybody can do that. Anybody can get a picture of the future. That's why he blurred it so you couldn't really see it. Then he made an excuse it was from time travel. And I was sitting here listening to this guy, and I'm like, I don't believe 90% of what he's saying. I don't think I just think he just making this all up. He's watched too much of The Matrix, where you got that whole computer thing, where he's lost it. He kind of stole that whole Matrix thing. There's another movie I think that like it basically sounds like Tron. Tron got stuck in a video game and they had to go look for him. It just seems like he's watched a lot of movies and he took a lot of this from different movies. Like The Matrix is one of them. Tron. There's a couple other ones. 6 Days. The one with Jean-Claude Van Time Cop. He took a lot of these from these movies, because I was sitting here listening and I remember seeing some of these parts in these movies. And so what I think is he's just watched a lot of movies, and like he just made it up. And then maybe whoever else was recording, or maybe he did have one person there and he was faking, he was shaking hands with like this to get on TV. But the thing is, like, how he had his face, you know, you couldn't see him, and then he was muzzled. Then he put a big show that his friend was gone and crying, and I was just like, it was fake to me. I don't believe it. I believe some of the stuff, like he was saying, like that will happen one day, like with computers taking over and monitoring us. I think that will happen. I think that they'll oversee everything, because they're going to be they're already smarter than us already. I believe that part. He kind of got that from the Terminator, but he made it where, oh, we're not getting attacked, and you know, and stuff like that. Then he was talking about shrinking people. Now that's one to make it for smaller, you know, people could live in a little area. I don't believe that. I think he saw that for Honey and Shrunk the Kids. That's one I don't believe. I mean, maybe one day, but that's thousands of years from now if that ever happens. I more believe the whole space thing, and he can't, you know, time traveler, more than I would believe shrinking people. I just don't know. I don't know what to think about that video. I think it's, like I said, I don't believe it. I think he's just had a lot of time on his hands. There's a lot of people who want to become famous, so they say a lot of crazy things. We deal with it all the time. That's why we did this video. I think it's fun. I think it's funny because this guy went out on his way to make it look like he's getting hunted down by the cops and all this. And the funny thing is, when you make a video like this and put it out, they have technology now. They can find out who you are anyway. They don't have to worry about distorting your voice. They can fix the thing where they can actually see your face now. So I don't necessarily believe it. I think it was a whatever funny video, whatever. We got a laugh out of it, and I think it was kind of lame. But the stuff he does talk about, there's some possibilities to it one day. It's going to happen one day, especially with the time travel. I believe that can happen, and it's going to happen. Maybe not at this moment, but like what he was talking about, there's the computers are becoming more smarter. That's already happening. That's true. I believe that. I believe that will happen one day, that computers will run the world, and they'll make sure that we don't make the stupid like he was talking about, people make rash decisions. Like, most people make the right decision, but a lot of people make a lot of decisions off of emotion. Like, something bad happens, everybody wants something to done then and there, and sometimes it doesn't take that. It takes a while. And like most people, after about a couple weeks, they'll get over it. And that's the problem. An android or a robot's going to make a better decision than we will. If the zombies came and started eating everybody, I'll show you. This is a stupid example, but this is why I'm going to say it. Say your kid turned into a zombie. It was trying to kill you or your family. Most people are not going to kill it because it's still my kid. Well, some people are going to kill him and not care. The other people are going to be devastated. That's still my baby, whatever. A robot's going to kill the zombie right then and there. Android, whatever you want to call it, because they said it. The other one where he says they're combining each other. That could be a possibility, like cyborgs with human parts and human and robot parts together. That could happen one day. I believe that too. That was an interesting one he brought up too. I like that part of it he was talking about. But that's what a robot will do. He'll kill it because they'll know it's bad. We won't make that. Some people won't make that judgment. They'll still go by on what their emotions are of that person. And that's the problem. Like with Walking Dead, you remember some of the people who died. Like Daryl, when he first, I'm not Daryl, Herschel, when they first met, remember he was all like, oh, that's my wife. And they had to kill his wife. And then he finally realized he was doing the wrong thing. Or his daughter, I think it was. I forget. I haven't seen the show for a while. And they had to kill that. But he was going off emotion. He didn't want to believe it. And that's what some people do. So that's what robots will do. They'll take over the whole thing of us, using our emotions. Oh, that's our loved one. Or say that we're getting ready we only have enough space for 1 million people and there's 2 million people. The robots will do the hard thing and just kill it or dispose of those other 1 million people. Or find another way or another solution that we wouldn't figure out. Because we don't think as fast as they will. They'll already know the answer. They won't think about what the consequences are. They're just going to do it. What's best for the human race or what's best for that situation. We'll sit there and talk about it for days and stuff, where they'll just get it done right then and there. That's what I believe. I believe that part of it. That's not hard to believe. But the other parts of it where his friend got stuck in a computer and that's where we die. I've heard this before from my other friend. My friend told me this theory. It was kind of like the whole Matrix. You wouldn't have to worry about eating anymore. Your mind would be in a computer, and people he had a good idea. If they were murderers or killers and didn't want to accept how society was, they could put their mind into this machine, and then you wouldn't have to worry about them anymore. And he told me about this. So I've already heard this story before of kind of what this guy is saying. And because my friend believed this stuff, he really believed that you can put your mind into VR one day, and you can just forget your body, and you can just live in another world, whatever world you want. You want to live in a world with dinosaurs, it will be there. You want a world with a bunch of women around, you're going to be there. Or you could be ghosts attacking you. It's going to be on your mind. So I've heard of this before. This isn't the first time. I think this guy really wants attention or get famous, but I really thought it was a funny show, what he was saying. It's something different. I've never even knew this existed till I seen it. And there's other people who I was looking through this YouTube channel. There's other people who've claimed they're coming from other time zones, and they put them on lie detector tests and they don't pass. So like I said, it's just the whole thing seems like a joke to me, but it's good to get this out because we get to talk about time travel. Me and James are very interested in time traveling anyway. We've talked about doing this for years, and we finally got to do a show about time traveling. So go ahead. That's all I got to say, James, about that. You can go ahead, buddy.
I could tell you, yes, I believe it, or I could tell you it's crap. That would be very easy to do. But what I want to do instead is I want to go through a lot of these points. I want to really dissect this thing because, as I've said before on this show many, many times, I am a man that never dismisses something without examining it first. No matter how ludicrous it appears, I always give it a chance and go through it. So that's what I'm going to do with this. I've already made up my mind, by the way, when I first watched the video. But for the benefit of the exercise, we're going to go through it. I think it'll be interesting. The first point is this gentleman said that he was part of a top secret program that took place in the 1990s. Now, in order to be part of that top secret program and to actually do the time traveling thing, you would have to assume that he had to be at least 18 at that point. Now, being that age in the 90s would put him close to my age now. I'm 44 years old. I was born in 1974. In the early 90s, I was graduating from high school. So he would be right around my age. But in this video, he appears, now granted his face is blurred, but from everything you can see, he appears to be like 19 or 20. He's not an older guy. His mannerisms, the way he talks, the way he moves around, he has that vibe of being either a teenager or early 20s. That's what I picked up from watching him. So that does not fit. He does not come from the year 6000. He is not a time traveler that comes to us from the future. He was born in our time, and he was part of a government program in the 1990s that sent him to the year 6000. Okay? So that means that he should be around my age if he was part of this program in the 90s. Because the only way he could be the age he is now is if he was born really late 90s or around the 2000 period. Or maybe 95 on, to be born in that time. But they're obviously not going to send a baby or a toddler through time. It would make no sense. He would have to be an adult so that does not match at all. That's my first major red flag problem with the video. Okay, he claims that time travel has already been invented, that it was invented in the 90s and the government is hiding it. That nobody in the public sector has been able to figure it out yet. But somehow the government has this technology and they're hiding it from everybody else. Now that's not too far-fetched because there's a lot of things the government is doing that we're not aware of. A lot of the aircraft, for example, that we are introduced to, the new stealth technology that they come out with, when we find out about it, the government has already had it for 20 or 30 years. That's what a lot of the Area 51 and Roswell kind of stuff is. It's not necessarily as much alien as it is terrestrial craft that is top secret aircraft that we don't know about. And then when we find out about it, it's stuff they've had for decades already. So that does pass the smell test as far as that the government, if they had this technology, we would not know about it until they wanted us to know about it. But, of course, that brings us to the next point, which is tied to that, which is he claims that it's going to be made public in 2028. And not only is it going to be made public, it's not just that we're going to find out about it. It's going to be commercially available to us in 2028. Now, to me, that is another huge red flag. Because as anybody who has ever watched any movie that has to do with time travel knows, if you time travel to the past and you change something, that would change our future today. It could literally blink us out of existence. Who knows? If all the theories about time travel were to hold true. But is that the kind of thing that you think they would actually want to take a chance on? The only way I can see time travel being made commercially available to everybody, if you can afford it, would be if we cannot actually interact with our environment. If we are simply there to watch, we appear in the form almost like a hologram. And another thing he says that they have the ability to become invisible. So they can literally go back in a ship and the whole thing can be invisible and they can watch things without anybody even knowing they're there. But once again, it would have to be in the form of a hologram to make sense. That an invisible hologram, if you can picture that in your mind, as crazy as that sounds. Because even if you're invisible, if you put your ship there and something runs into it, if you're still a solid object that's just invisible, you're going to cause problems. I'm sure you've all heard of the butterfly effect. The butterfly effect, for those that do not know, is basically the idea that a butterfly can flap its wings on one side of the planet and change reality on the other side of the planet. That's really an oversimplification of the theory, but that's the basic gist of it. That even something as small as a butterfly flapping its wings can cause massive changes in the world. This same theory is illustrated when you take a tiny pebble and you throw it into a pond. At the point of impact, very small ripples. But as the distance grows from the initial point of impact, the ripples are much larger as they spread out. That's the basic idea of the butterfly effect. That even a small, insubstantial thing like that can have major changes further away. So if you have a solid object that lands in the future, or well, in the future it won't really matter so much, but if it lands in the past and crushes something, you got problems. If somebody runs into it, you got problems because it's going to change things. And you never know what change is going to screw everything up for us. So I think that's one of those things that they're not going to take a chance on. There's no way that anybody in their right mind would say, yeah, let's just open it up to the public so you can, people at Walmart can go back in the past and check out dinosaurs and such. That's crazy. Unless you were completely invisible and completely a hologram to where you can't mess anything up. Because think about the average person that you know. Better yet, think about your average day. You leave your home, you get in your car, you drive to work. You have your work day, you get off, maybe you do a little shopping, you get some dinner, you go home. Now just think about how many truly dumb people you meet during that day. How many people in traffic that you scream at as you're driving to work, call them idiot, dummy, every name in the book that I can't repeat on radio. Think about all the people you work with that you're surprised these people can even put their shoes and pants on without hurting themselves because they're that dumb. Think about the people that you run into as you're shopping, the people that you run into as you're getting dinner. Just think about how dumb the average person really is nowadays. And imagine those are the people they're going to be going back in time. Those are the people that you're going to trust to go back and watch the signing of the Declaration of Independence. What could possibly go wrong, right? You got a bunch of mouth breathers going back and watching these historical events. Of course they're going to screw something up. Of course they are. There's almost zero chance they're not going to botch everything up. So I just do not see that even remotely being possible to where they would actually allow normal people to travel back in time. Because it would be catastrophic. I mean, there's just no way that doesn't end badly. They also stated in the video that in the year 6000, we were all super healthy because all major diseases have been eradicated. Now that one, to me, is hard to believe. And it's not because I don't believe that the diseases we have now can be cured. Because I absolutely know they can be cured. A lot of these diseases, such as cancer and AIDS and other things, already have cures. A lot of that is being suppressed by the government to where you can't get the cure as a normal person. There are some natural cures to these things, and they are illegal. And there are also cures that we don't even know about. The technology has been developed. The cures have been developed. You can get them if you're the right people and you have the right kind of cash. Normal people can't. They don't even know they exist. That's all true. So I know that the diseases we suffer from now can and will be cured. But nature always finds a way. Viruses mutate. Things become antibiotic resistant. We will have a whole new slew of diseases that come about as in the future. They will be cured, and then we will have more. That is just our lot in life. That's the way it works. You're always going to have things that feed off of you. You're always going to have things that are trying to kill you. And there's nothing you're going to be able to do to change that. That's always going to be a problem. It won't be the same diseases we have now, but I cannot imagine a world where it's healthy all the time. Because you would have to take away choice completely from people. People are always going to eat stuff that's not good for them because it tastes good. The majority of people are not going to sit there and eat tofu and vegetables all the time. It's just not going to happen. We love our meat. We love our candy. We love our cakes. All of that crap is really, really bad for you. You're not going to give up drinking Mountain Dew or whatever your favorite drink is. You're just not going to. So they would have to completely eliminate all that in order for you to be healthy. Because otherwise you're going to have diabetes, you're going to have cancers, you're going to have all these things because a lot of that comes from the food and drinks we put in our bodies. And the different things we do recreationally like smoking and drugs and stuff like that. A lot of that causes a lot of the problems we have physically. That's not going to change unless you take away choice. Which it might be possible because they said that in the video that mankind is ruled by AI. That's artificial intelligence. Computers rule us. So computers would look at the situation and say, well, all this stuff is causing these people to die, so let's just make it so they can't have it anymore. That's a logical step that would be taken by computers, I believe. That makes sense. So if computers are ruling the world in the future, then maybe we don't have choice anymore, and that's why disease is gone. It could be. He also talks about teleportation, that teleportation exists in the future. But the way he does it kind of didn't pass the smell test for me either. Because it was almost as a side note. Like, oh yeah, teleportation exists too, and then he moves on to something else. That's kind of a big one. You know, we have grown up watching things like Star Trek, where they teleport. That's one of the big brass rings that everybody's reaching for to trying to do. So if that technology existed in the future, and if they were actually capable of doing that, you would think that that would be more of a focus, not a side note. Now maybe I'm just being too picky here, but to me that doesn't feel right. That feels like it should be a much more major thing about the future than just some little mention, and then you move on. But also, teleportation, I think, would be physically impossible to do. It's a cool little science fiction thing. It's a cool thing to think about. But I don't see any way that you could realistically do it. Because if you break down the process of teleportation, essentially what you're doing is breaking the body down on an atomic level, sending all of those atoms through the air, and reassembling it somewhere else. Now, can you take a solid object, break it down, and reassemble it somewhere else? Maybe. Not saying you can't, maybe. Theoretically, maybe. But would that thing be alive anymore? That's what I doubt. We may have the physical structure the same, but I don't think you'd be there anymore. Because once you tear apart the brain on an atomic level like that, putting it all back together, getting all those synapses firing again, all the memories back, all that, I don't think that can be done. I think whatever it is that makes you, you will be lost in that process. And you might have another body that looks just like you, but I don't think anybody will be home anymore. I don't think you'll be in there again. It just, to me, it doesn't make sense how that could be possible. I don't think that's possible. I may be wrong. We may find out in the future it is possible. I just don't see how it could be. So that kind of bothers me there that they say teleportation exists. I don't think it can exist. They also state that they have invisibility technology. I touched a little bit on this earlier. This one's kind of cool because you wonder, okay, how? How are you making yourself and other things invisible? How is it done in nature? Well, in nature, there's two ways to become invisible. One is through camouflage. We see that with the chameleon and a bunch of other animals that, like some snakes, they'll blend in with their environment. A lot of reptiles will. Amphibians do that. We even develop camouflage for our military and our rednecks when we go hunting. I have amazing camouflage. You don't even see me when I go out in the woods. But I'm not invisible. I'm just camouflaged. I blend in. The other way it's done is by bending light around yourself so that nobody can see you. That could be a possibility, but so far that really can't be done in a realistic manner and in a way that makes sense. We can become invisible to radar through some of our technology, through the way we make angles on our aircraft and stuff so that the radar signal bounces off of it, just goes right over it and it doesn't hit it. Because the way radar works, it shoots out a signal just like bats do with sonar, and it bounces off a solid object and comes back, and they pick up that rebound. But if you do the angles right on the aircraft, there's no rebound to pick up, so essentially you're invisible to that radar, but you're not actually invisible. If somebody's standing outside, they'll watch you fly right by. So it'll be interesting to me to find out if that ever comes up. How did they do it? Because I would really like to know that, because that's a very interesting subject. But the problem I have with it in this video is he claims that they have the power to become invisible. They have this technology that enables them to be invisible. But he also states in the video that he's on the run from the government because they're going to kill him. Well, if you have the technology to become invisible, why are you running and hiding? Just be invisible so they can't see you. You know what I mean? Or did you not get to keep any of your gear maybe? I don't know. That one's kind of weird too. It doesn't really pass the smell test for me. He also talks about that we are no longer governed by people because people make emotional decisions and that AI controls everything now. Old boy talked a little bit about that when he was talking. But the problem is he also says in the video that they were able to keep the AI from taking over. So there's a little bit of a time there where it doesn't add up, you know, because he says, oh, AI can predict things with 100% accuracy and they can figure out things before they even happen and they can rule things better because they don't make emotional decisions. But then he also says, but don't worry, we kept it from taking us over. Well, how did you keep it from taking you over if it rules you? That didn't make any sense. He also says in the year 6000 that human beings are beginning to spread their consciousness across the entire universe. They're beginning to populate other planets, that kind of thing. That's kind of cool because that's actually on the horizon. That we're actually talking about doing that. We're going to be having colonies on Mars, colonies on the moon, places like that. We are planning on colonizing other planets. That will really help out with overpopulation because some of our population will just move to another planet. But then he talks about that they've dealt with the problem of population control by shrinking people. So you have these tiny people instead of normal-sized people. And when he talks about tiny people, they're talking a couple inches tall. They're not talking like 3 feet. They're talking a couple inches tall. Now, there was just a movie that came out with Matt Damon in it. I forget what the name of it was, but it was a really good movie. I really enjoyed watching it. But that's the premise of that movie, is that they have decided that in order to have a better environment, a better carbon footprint, if you will, they're going to shrink people down, and it'll help with resources, it'll help with population control, all that stuff. Everything this guy's talking about, the reason they did shrinking in the future, is exactly what they're talking about in this movie. And that kind of goes to Old Boy's point of, it sounds like he just took a bunch of movies and made up a story about it. Now, the problem I have with this whole shrinking people thing, other than the fact that I don't see any way you could really do it, I mean, that technology hasn't even been thought of yet as far as how to actually pull it off. I don't think that's physically possible either to actually do that, because I think you'd end up killing the person in the process. But the other problem I have with it is, why the hell would you do that? That makes no sense. We spent all this time getting to the top of the food chain, where the average person doesn't have to worry about wild animals ripping them apart. We don't have to worry about walking out of our house and a bear or a mountain lion jumping on you and killing you and eating you. Now, some people do. Like, I live up in the mountains, so that's a very real possibility for me every day, is something actually trying to kill me. But for the majority of people, that's not a concern anymore. It just doesn't happen. You live in cities, and you don't have bears and mountain lions and tigers and all that kind of stuff prowling around trying to eat you. But the problem is, if you shrink down to an inch or two, then a lot of creatures that were not a problem at all suddenly become gigantic monsters. If you shrink down to an inch or two, bees are a huge problem now. Whereas before they were just a nuisance, but now they can literally kill you. Ants become a major issue. Now, granted, if you're a couple inches tall, you're still as big or bigger than an ant. But you got to remember, an ant is like super strong. An ant can carry like, I don't know, 1,000 times its body weight, I think the number is, something like that. They are bad little dudes, man. They are strong as hell. They have very sharp pincers that can kill you. Ants become a major problem. So little things that we would just step on and be like, you're nothing. Before, all of a sudden now, huge problem. So we go from being on top of the food chain all the way back down to the damn bottom of the food chain again. The only way that could possibly work is if you shrunk all the animals too, so that nothing is bigger than you and can eat you. But if you do that, then once again you run into the problem of resources, because now all your resources are tiny. So it just doesn't make any sense to me. One, I don't understand how you would do it. I don't see any feasible way it could actually be accomplished. I don't think it's possible. Two, it doesn't make any damn sense to do it unless you have other people that don't become small, that guard you so that nothing can hurt you. But then what's to stop those people from just becoming dictators and ruling over you and treating you like garbage? You can't really do nothing about it. You're a tiny little nothing now. So that made absolutely no sense. And I think that's BS. Now, one that does kind of line up with what's actually going on is that when they talk about uploading their brains to computers so they can live forever. This is actually something that they are really trying hard to do right now. A lot of the elites are willing to pay a tremendous amount of money to have their consciousness actually put onto a computer so that it can be later put into a clone and they can live again. This is the idea for immortality. That's what they think is going to allow them to live forever. Now, here's the problem I have with that. Well, one, your brain is basically a computer. So I believe at some point it probably will be possible to do that, as far as take all of your thoughts, all of your personality, what makes you you, and put it into a computer program. I think that's 100% going to be possible. But will it be you? That's the question. Or will it just be a computer program that acts the way you acted? See, I think that's where people are missing the boat here. I think that they're not understanding what that actually means. Just because you can teach a computer program to think the way you think, to act the way you act, and to feel the way you feel, doesn't make it you. Okay, so let's follow this through to its logical conclusion. You get sick. You get cancer or space herpes or who knows what the hell diseases they have in the future. You get some weird disease. It's going to kill you. You think, oh man, I don't want to die. I'm going to go down to this store that does this. It'll probably be run by Google or somebody like that. And I'm going to have them put a jack in the back of my head and download all of my memories and my thoughts and everything that makes me me onto this computer so that I can be reimplanted into a clone that they're going to grow. That's going to look like me, everything like that, so I'll live again. So you go do that. So they plug into the back of your head, into your cerebral cortex there. They suck all the memories out of you. They suck all of your personality, everything out. So now that computer program thinks what you think, knows what you know, has all your memories, everything. It is a perfect carbon copy of you, mentally. They unplug the jack. You leave the store and you wait for them to grow your clone body so they can put that information into it. But here's the problem. You're still you, right? You can still think. You can still feel. You're not gone. You're still you. But now there's a copy of your brain that on that computer that thinks what you think. But it's just a computer program. It's not you. It's just all of your memories and everything. It's just like you recorded them for future. Now your massive case of space herpes gets much worse, and now you die. You're in the hospital getting ready to die. You have literally an hour left or something, right? It's almost that time. You're about to say goodbye to the planet Earth. Good news, your clone is ready. They're going to be implanting your memories and everything into it. Wonderful. But you're still you, aren't you? You're still lying in that hospital bed, dying. You're not in that computer. You're still in your body. So now this deadly disease claims you're dead. They take the computer program that they made of your memories and your mind, and they put it into your clone body. So now there's a clone body that looks like you, that's running around with a computer program in it that has all of your memories, all of your thoughts, all of your feelings, everything, right? So to everybody else in the world, wow, you're back. You're going to live forever because it's you again. But is it really? You died in the bed, remember? While that computer program existed that was supposed to be you, you were still you. You were still laying there dying. So when you died, guess what? You died. That new thing is not you. It may have your memories. It may have your thoughts, but it's not really you. It's not you thinking. It's a computer program thinking for you. But it's not you anymore. You're dead. You're worm food. So I think that's where people are really missing the boat here. They're not understanding that that's not you. That's just a VHS copy, so to speak, of what you think. It's like you could record what's in your brain and play it back later to watch. That's all it is. It's not you. So that's a huge, huge problem as well. The last thing I'll talk about real quick, because we're starting to run out of time here, is that they talk about time travel. The reason that photograph he shows in the video is all distorted is because they say time travel distorts things. It can even make your limbs all weird looking and all this stuff. And that's why the photograph is messed up. They said he started with cats and dogs. I'm sure it was about a lot of terrible, terrible things that happened to him in order to perfect it. But that's the explanation they give for why the photo sucks. Is that, oh, well, time travel distorts everything. And it can even make you all goofy looking. Okay, well, if that's the case, why the hell did they keep doing it? And if there's these people that were part of this government program in the 90s, and notice he said people, not just him. So that means there was more than one. There's a bunch of people that were in this program, and they got sent to different time periods, most likely. So you'd have a bunch of wavy, weird-looking people, if that is true. So let's carry that to its logical conclusion. He is claiming that he was part of this program. He is claiming that he took that picture in the year 6000 and he wanted to show us what the future looks like. But the picture is all distorted and goofy looking because the act of time travel distorts things and screws everything up. And he goes on to say that it'll even mess up your limbs and make your arms and your legs and everything all wavy and weird looking. Okay, well, if that's the case, then how come you look totally normal, dude? Other than the fact that your face is blurred out. But that wasn't caused by time travel. That was caused by a computer program waving your face out so we can't see who you are. But I notice your arms don't look like that goofy inflatable thing at a car dealership that's waving back and forth. Your arms and legs aren't distorted. You're supposed to be a time traveler. So that doesn't add up. So all in all, my verdict on the video is it's crap. It's not true at all. But there were some interesting things that he talked about in there that they're actually, some of them they're working on now. And it made for an interesting show. It made for an interesting exercise in examining these different things and talking about them a little bit. And for that, I think it was worthwhile. I enjoyed it. I love things like this when I can pick something apart like this and examine it. And I love the whole idea of time travel. I love all these different theories. And at some point in the future, we'll probably do a show where we are talking just about time travel. But this one kind of really caught my eye because it's blowing up and everybody's talking about it. And it's this huge deal. And it's just so obviously not true. I can't understand how so many people are buying into it. It's just, it blows my mind. But with that being said, I'm going to throw it back to Old Boy for his final thoughts and everything, and then we'll wrap this puppy up.
Thank you, brother. I kind of think the same thing. If he was, it distorted you, you'd be like a fry guy. It would be like, you wouldn't even look like yourself right there. It doesn't make any sense. I think he was just full of crap. And I think a lot of people want to believe this stuff, man. And that's what it is. They want to believe, do we come from another planet or anything? Or I mean, can we go in the future? I mean, not another planet, but can we go in the future and we can do all this stuff and robotics? And I think this is a whole sci-fi thing and a lot of people's dreams. And some of this will be true, trust me, like he was saying. But he did with warping and stuff like that. He didn't really talk about it. And beam me up like that. That's one that he got, he talking about that too. Like he got that from Star Trek, but he just didn't really talk about it. So he kind of like just said something and started talking about something else. So I kind of agree with you, James. I think it's fake. I don't agree. I just think it's kind of funny. It was a good show to do. It was interesting. We got a lot of stuff from it, and I hope you guys all enjoyed it. And so I hope the next time we could do another show about time traveler, and we will. We'll actually do about a real story, not this stuff. But this was just funny to talk about, so we got to do this one. So I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Happy New Year's, guys. It's coming up in a couple days. I want to give a shout-out to all our listeners on Parax Radio. Thank you. Over 4,500 subscribers and counting. Thank you, guys. If you want to listen to our old shows or, the new shows, you can go on YouTube and subscribe to James Hershey Jr. YouTube page. And we have merchandise. He'll tell you where to go on that to look it up. And I want to thank you all. And I hope you guys all had a good Christmas. I love you guys. Thank you. I hope you guys listen to us. We're going to keep doing different shows every week. You'll never hear the same show. So that's one thing you'll always get from us is no repeats. So I hope everybody has a good night. Demon hunters, misfits, sugar ladies, and monster lovers. I love you, and blessed be. Have a good night, guys.
You know what's really interesting, Old Boy? When I first heard that part about time travel making your arms and legs all wavy and stuff, what I thought about, do you remember that show that we did recently on the Russian Yeti thing? That photograph that we examined, remember I blew it up and we ran it through the program and we looked at it over and over again? And we kept talking about how the arms on that thing were so wavy and weird looking. It didn't make any sense why the arms would look like that. and that's why we thought it was a doctored photograph. That's what made me think about that photograph, is when he was talking about the arms, the limbs being wavy and distorted by time travelers. That's what came to my mind, was that photograph. Wouldn't it be interesting if we were completely wrong here and he was telling the truth, and what happened to those kids up on that mountain was a time traveler got him, and that's why his arms were all wavy? Probably not the case. I'd say 99.9% sure it's not, but wouldn't that be an interesting end to the whole thing? But with that being said, we are pretty much out of time. So the YouTube channel is youtube.com/James Hershey Jr. That's where you can find all of our old shows. You can also find our TV show, Tales from the Abyss, there, and a bunch of different side videos we do on the paranormal. We also put evidence videos up from our investigations, that kind of thing. The merchandise store is teespring.com/stores/staring into the abyss. That's teespring.com, teespring.com/stores with an S on the end /staring into the abyss. There you can find all the merch. There's t-shirts, hoodies, tank tops, posters, iPhone cases, all kinds of stuff. If you're into merch and you want it, that's where you can go get it. The prices are good, the quality is good, so enjoy. Also, I'm a horror author. That's how I make my living. So every once in a while, I don't do it every show because, I don't know, it just feels like cheap self-promotion or something, but every once in a while I like to say, check out my novels. My name is James Hershey Jr. I wrote the I Am Legion series. It's I Am Legion, The Surrogate of Souls, and The Rise of the Revenant. I also have a novel that is called Call of the Wind Spirits. They are available on Amazon, on Kindle, paperback, audio, book through Audible. They're also available at booksamillion.com, barnesandnoble.com, walmart.com, all those places. Pretty much anywhere you buy books, you can get it. If your bookstore doesn't have it, just order it, because they can all get it. So give them a read and let me know what you think. I've had a lot of success with them. People really seem to enjoy them. I think they're really, really good. And pretty much everybody who's read them thinks they're really, really good. So hopefully you will as well. With that being said, we are pretty much out of time. So thank you guys for listening. Thank you for all the support that you give us. And until we speak to you again, love many, trust few, and do harm to none. God loves you, and so do we. Bye-bye.